So now, as what in last class we have seen that there is a fundamental derivation for the Euler turbine pump equation or turbo machinery equation, where we have seen that the three effects are clubbed together, where first effect is impulse effect, where absolute kinetic energy changes, then second effect is centrifugal effect where radius would change, and third effect is the reaction effect where relative velocity would change. Having said these three effects and entering into the parts of the gas turbine power plant, now in today's class we are going to see what do we mean by centrifugal compressor. Our objective over here is to identify different parts of centrifugal compressor, then understand the flow through those parts in the centrifugal compressor, and then draw the TS diagram for the centrifugal compressor. Then one of the objectives is to draw velocity triangles and then interpret the velocity triangle in perspective of the Euler equation, and then consider it for further temperature and pressure rise. So these are the thoughts which we would have to process for the present lecture. So in view of this, we will start with the centrifugal compressor. Here in the centrifugal compressor, we always have seen these kind of objects in around our vicinity. So these objects, whenever they are seen, we term them as centrifugal compressors. Practically their appearance is very special due to the volute casing. The volute casing or the cover of the compressor is a special cover for this kind of compressor. So these kind of compressors can be really identified when we are seeing them in our vicinity. Then how does the centrifugal compressor process of development proceed? Basically, turbojet engines were attractive choices after the Second World War. When the turbo machines were getting developed, and then we knew that we had seen that there were first turbojet engines which were developed in the same period. In that period, turbojet machines were thought to be developed. But in the turbojet machine, as we know, there is one of the components as compressor. So that compressor can be either of axial type or of centrifugal type. So within that, German scientists were taking effort for the axial compressor design and development, while British were involved in the design of and development of centrifugal compressor. First centrifugal compressor was used for the British American combat airliner in the same period. So this is how centrifugal compressor came into existence. But there is a problem with centrifugal compressor, and due to that problem, whenever there is an increased power requirement or high power requirement is existing or required, then centrifugal compressor is understood to have limitations, so it is not further proceeded with. So it was observed that axial compressor is more suitable in such cases when we have a requirement of large power produced by the power plant, obviously. So in that case, axial compressors were found more suitable. But still, centrifugal compressors have certain advantages. First is it is suitable for handling low volume flow rates. Basically that turns out to be, in the above point, that turned out to be disadvantage, but the point is it is efficient. If we are trying to handle low mass flow rate or low volume flow rate, then centrifugal compressor handles it efficiently. Then it has good protection against foreign object damage, which is FOD. So it has better resistance and good protection for the foreign object damage. It has less susceptibility to loss in performance due to deposition on the blade surface. Basically this is one more advantage for the centrifugal compressor. It can operate for wide range of mass flow rate for a given rotational speed, whatever it had chosen for within the low volume flow rate range. And then in one stage we can go for the pressure rise of 4:1 in the centrifugal compressor, where we have seen that the axial compressor would lead to very small pressure rise, and then this pressure rise can be simply attained if we use aluminum as the material for the blade fabrication. However, the blade material, if it is titanium alloy, then this pressure rise can be increased from 4:1 to 8:1. So there is a stress developed on the blades and due to rotation, and then that stress is going to lead to a failure. If we try to increase it to raise the pressure, then in that case we have to have some different material for higher pressure rise applications. So for that all sake, when titanium alloy is used, then we can go with higher pressure rise. Centrifugal compressors can be coupled with axial compressors for multi-staging, or with another centrifugal compressor when we need to connect two compressors for the power plant. This compressor turned out to be a better choice for power plants which are small power plants. This is also useful in the turboprop applications or some auxiliary power generation applications. So this is thought as a good candidate in these applications. Centrifugal compressors are also found prominently in superchargers for reciprocating engines, natural gas pipelines and refrigeration plants. What we see in IC engine, we know that for an IC engine we can use a supercharger which would supply the high pressure air to the or high temperature air to the intake of the engine. So for that supply we can use centrifugal compressor, and that centrifugal compressor is prominently also used in refrigeration applications and reciprocating applications, superchargers. Centrifugal compressors can be used till 5 stages with the intercooling arrangement. We have seen that intercooling leads to lesser work input constraint for us. It would help us to have lesser input of work from the compressor side. So further intercooling is preferred, and then we can use multiple compressor, as it was told in one of the points, that we can club it with other centrifugal compressor or with axial compressor, but then we can as well connect it with the intercooler and go with 5 stages. Then there are different parts of centrifugal compressor. We can see on screen that the centrifugal compressor can be shown in different figures, is shown rather in different figures. So if we see the topmost left figure, then in that case first left hand entity is called as the impeller disc of the compressor, and then we have stator vanes, and then we have casing. So these are the 3 parts mainly for the compressor. We have seen that there are mainly 2 parts. What we saw, that there is rotor and then there is stator in the compressor, and then stator comes later and rotor comes first. So we will first have the flow entering into the rotor, and then flow will go to the stator. So same thing here as well, flow will first enter, since this is a centrifugal compressor. So here idea is to take the flow axially in and radially out. So we have flow in this figure which is coming axially in and it will go radially out like this, or it will come from here and then it will go out from here, and then it will pass into the stator vanes, and then it would enter into the volute casing. So this would be the construction of centrifugal compressor. So this is again, we are having in the diagram below it, we are having impeller, and then we are having diffuser, and then we are having manifold. Further this diagram is more clear if we see in the right hand side top part. So right hand side bottom, we can see that there are two types of figures where we are seeing that those are impeller discs. So these are also shown in this slide. There is one more entity which is called as shroud, and we are going to see that shroud is mainly used to avoid the flow between the high pressure side of the blade to the low pressure side of the blade. So what would happen in the centrifugal compressor is this: we will have flow which is coming in the eye of the impeller first, and then eye of the impeller has a curved part that is called as an inducer. So if we go back, then this curved part is called as inducer. This curved part is called as inducer, and here this curved part is called as inducer. So having said this, we are having this in this figure, the curved part is inducer, this complete is impeller. So the bottom of the inducer to the top of the inducer is called as impeller eye, from where flow will try to enter into the blades. Then it will come radially and then it will go out radially and then it will enter into the diffuser passage. So this is how the flow will move, and then the flow, since it is happening, there is basically the rotation given to the blade from the applied electrical energy, due to which the rotor is rotating. Then rotor is rotating here in the clockwise direction and flow is going radially outwards. So these are the flow path lines or streamlines in case of the centrifugal compressor. So casing and diffuser are the two stationary parts, while the impeller is the rotating part of the centrifugal compressor. Here impeller's job is to provide the high velocity to the air, which further would be utilized to decelerate either partially on the impeller itself or partially or fully in the diffuser. So this is how the working principle of the impeller or disc is. Okay, then impeller can be single and or double sided depending upon the mass flow rate. Here we mean that the impeller till time whatever is seen, discs we were seen, they were having vanes only on one side. We will see down the line that there can be impeller on either sides. So partially some static pressure rise would expectedly taken place in the impeller blade, and some pressure rise will take place into the diffuser. Air with high velocity enters into the diffuser, and then the value of the velocity of the air gets reduced from the inlet to the outlet. This is what it would happen into the centrifugal compressor. Around half static pressure is expected to rise into the impeller itself, and then further half pressure rise is expected to take place in the diffuser. This is a single sided impeller, and then this is double sided impeller, where we will have flow coming from both the sides and then flow will go radially out from both the sides. So this helps us in the improving mass flow rate. Then there is a chance, if we can see this, then there is high pressure on one side of the blade and low pressure on the other side of the blade. Then due to the pressure difference and having the open passage between the high pressure and low pressure, then there is a chance that air will flow from high pressure to the low pressure side. So as to avoid this pressure, avoid this flow, we can close this passage as possible as we can using the shroud, so which is called as impeller shroud. But due to manufacturing difficulties, it is difficult to close completely. However, it would lead to some friction, and that is also called as windage loss in the compressor. So practically, if in a sophisticated compressor or in a complete compressor rather, what we would have is an accelerating nozzle, and then we will have inlet guide vanes, then we will have inducer, then we will have impeller, then we will have diffuser, and then we will have involute casing. So this is what the complete construction of a centrifugal compressor. So there may be inlet guide vane or may not be, there may be accelerating nozzle or may not be, but rest of the components are existing for a centrifugal compressor. So we will see now what is going to happen when we are having a centrifugal compressor with all these entities. So this is again a diagram for centrifugal compressor with its vanes which are radially outwards. So flow would come into the centrifugal compressor, impeller, inducer, and then it would go radially out, and then it would go out from the diffuser blades. So this is how the flow passage in case of the centrifugal compressor is. Now we will see what are the velocity triangles for the impeller or for the centrifugal compressor in general. Then in this case, let us see first case that we are having first as only the inducer, but then there is no inlet guide vane. Inducer's idea over here in case of centrifugal compressor is to smoothly have entry of the air into the radial vanes. So that is what the inducer is having curved portion. Inducer is curved for that particular reason. Basically when we on the compressor, rotations would start, so there is a chance that air is going to come in random direction from everywhere, but we know that centrifugal compressor is a radial machine where flow has to go radially. So axial entry will be there, radial outlet will be there, or axial entry, within that the flow can come from any direction towards the axis of the centrifugal compressor, but it has to go radially outward, then so as to channelize the flow and have smooth entry to the flow, the inducer is curved in case of the centrifugal compressor. So for that all sake, if we have inducer and then there is no inlet guide vane, then in that case what we will have is velocity triangle. As we know, we are naming C as the velocity for the absolute velocity and U is the velocity for the rotation velocity, and then C and U, and then we are having V velocity which is for the relative velocity. So these are the three velocities what we have denoted. Then further, C velocity has three components, one is axial component, one is whirling component, and third is our radial components. There are three components for the velocity, which is absolute velocity, and absolute velocity is summation of two vectors, which is relative velocity vector and tangential velocity vector. So flow is expected to come from bottom and it is going to go from the top. So here further what would happen is flow would come enter tangentially into the inducer. This is inducer of the compressor. So this is inducer of the compressor, and then we are having velocity entering tangentially to it, so we will say it as V1, but inducer is rotating, so this is basically the rotational speed U1 in this direction. If you remember and if you go back, then we can see here that this is the direction of rotation as it is shown over here for the impeller, and this is the inducer. The plane in which we are drawing this velocity triangle is the plane which is tangential, which is rather horizontal plane which is passing through the inducer or mid height of the inducer. So this is where we are trying to plot this velocity triangle. So that's where we are saying that it is U is the tangential velocity. But since we are not having any inlet guide vane, we expect that flow will come axially. So C1 is equal to CA1. So this is what the velocity triangle it would look like. We will here onwards, you should remember that for us we will use beta is the angle for the relative velocity and alpha is the angle for the absolute velocity. So we have a completely absolute velocity at the intake of the inducer, and then we have partially U velocity, but then there is no whirl velocity, and here we are since drawing the velocity triangle on the horizontal plane, then there is no radial velocity as well in case of this intake inlet velocity triangle. Further, if we consider a case that now we are having some inlet guide vane, then if we are having inlet guide vane, then we will have the velocity triangle along with the inlet guide vane. So for that all sake, let us draw the inducer and then inlet guide vane. So this is inlet guide vane and this is inducer. Then we will have to draw those configurations. Now in this case, this for us, this is inducer, and then this is inlet guide vane. In this case, we expect the velocity c1 to be approaching in this direction, but relatively it will enter in this direction, and then this would turn out to be the u velocity, which is where we will have alpha 1 as the angle of the absolute velocity, but in this case beta 1 is equal to 90 degree. So here if you remember, then it is rotating in this direction. So inducer is rotating in this direction, and then velocity is coming axially in, but in between we have inlet guide vane. So inlet guide vane's job is to let it enter smoothly into the blades. So having said this as velocity triangles, now we have to draw velocity triangle for the rotor. So this is the inlet velocity triangle with inlet guide vane or without inlet guide vane. This case is without inlet guide vane. Without inlet guide vane, and this is with inlet guide vane. Now we will have to draw the velocity triangle for the rotor. So in the rotor case, there are three options for us. Within that we will choose first an option where we are having radial entry of the blade, or where we are having radially outward blade for the centrifugal compressor. Then let us draw a sample blade for the centrifugal compressor, and then we will draw the velocity triangle for that case. So here we are having a centrifugal compressor vane, and then it is rotating in this direction. This is inducer, and then this is impeller disc, and flow is coming axially in. Here this is the shaft which is rotating like this. So this is coming in this direction, and then it is going out in the radial direction. So having said this, we will have velocity triangle. Since we are saying that flow is expected to go radially out, velocity triangle at the inlet is already drawn, but for the outlet we will draw the velocity triangle now. Velocity triangle at the outlet is expected like this. Velocity of the flow will go radially out, and then this velocity is v2, which is going radially outward, but at this point we know that there is a tangential velocity in this direction, which is u2. So relatively flow will go in absolute velocity of the flow, this is c2. So practically we will have, this is alpha 2, and then beta 2 is equal to 90 degree. So this is velocity triangle for the outlet. So if we see, then this part is for inlet and this part is for outlet. So this is outlet velocity triangle in case of the radial vanes, but vanes need not be radial in case of a centrifugal compressor. They can be of different type. They can be either backward curved or forward curved. So in case of backward curved, or this is radial vane, practically speaking this is radial. In case of backward curve, what we have, we will draw for backward curve. Velocity triangle will be different at the outlet, but the inlet velocity triangle would be same. So in case of backward curve, we will have blades which are not radial but they are backward curve, and then in case of radial we have blades which are radially outward, and in forward curve we have blades which are forward curve. So these are blades. Okay, so we will have velocities accordingly in the outlet. So first we will draw for backward curve. Everywhere let us consider that u is the velocity which is tangential and is of same magnitude. Then here, since blades are backward curved, we will have, this is u2, this is u2, this is u2, and this is v2, then this is v2, and then this is v2. Okay, this is v2. Now in this case these two vectors would add, and we can know that these vectors would lead to this as absolute velocity c2, and this would lead to absolute velocity c2, and this would lead to absolute velocity c2 in this direction. So what we will have is this angle has alpha 2, and then we will have this angle has alpha 2, this angle has alpha 2. Okay, and then accordingly we can decompose it into whirling component and radial component for the absolute velocity. So in that case we can draw the velocity triangle for the blades of the impeller. So in such a case, let us draw the velocity triangle for the radial blade. So for the radial blade, what we have is this as v2, then this is u2, and then we will have c2 as the velocity, which is this is c2, this is u2. And then this is for radial, as what we had drawn earlier. In case of backward facing, we have this as v2, this as u2, and then this is c2. This is backward. And in case of forward, we are having this as v2, this is u2, then this is c2. So this is forward. So this is how we will have velocity triangles for the three blades which are of different type. So radial, backward and forward type. But here what is important to note that we have to draw the angles, and those angles would be for the absolute and relative velocities. Okay, so in this case we will again show that if this is the blade tip, then this is the v2, this is u2, and then this is c2. So we have this as alpha 2, this as beta 2. So for us, beta 2 equal to 90 degree is the case of radial vanes. And for now backward facing blades, so let us draw a typical backward facing blade. So here we will have this as our this as our V2, which is V2, and then this is the tangential velocity, which is U2. So this would turn out to be the, in this case this would turn out to be the C2. So for C2 we have to decompose it. So this is practically beta 2 and this is practically the alpha 2. So we have beta 2 here is less than 90 degree, and then we call it as backward facing vanes. But this C2 can be decomposed into two components. One component is CR2 and other component is CW2. And we had seen that this CW2 appears, which is a whirling component, and CR is a radial component, and this whirling component appears in case of the work input formula for the compressor. Now if we will draw the case for forward facing vanes, then let us draw that. So this is forward facing vane. So in this case we have V2 here, then we have U2, we have U2 here, and then we have C2 here. We have C2 here. So accordingly we get CR2, and then we will get complete this as CW2. So this is how velocity components would get decomposed for beta 2, which is greater than 90 degree, and that is for forward facing vanes. Actually, in principle, practically people try to use beta 2 is equal to 90 degree radial vanes, since it is simple to fabricate. However, we can see that later on that if we are having beta 2 greater than 90, then the pressure requirement, pressure rise which would happen will be higher for the given blade. So there would be a problem of surging, and then there is a problem of the flow dynamics inside the compressor. So generally blades with beta greater than 90, beta 2 greater than 90 are not preferred, beta less than 90 are preferred, or beta equal to 90 are preferred. Beta less than 90 blades would give us lesser stringent requirement for the pressure rise in a stage, since it would have lesser work input, so lesser pressure rise, and then that's why we would have lesser work input for the beta less than 90 case. But simple to fabricate blades of radially out vanes, which is beta 90 degree, are generally preferred. After having this, now we will go with certain things in the case of centrifugal compressor. So now we know that there are certain things like W compressor or W shaft which is required, and we know that it is equal to specific work. If we try to say, then we will not have m dot here, and then it will be CW2U2 minus CW1 U1, and this work formula is obtained from the Euler turbine pump equation derivation. Here U is pi dn by 60, which is the tangential speed obtained for given omega, and then here diameter d2 is at the outlet or at the tip, and diameter d1 is at the impeller mid height of the impeller I, or inducer mid height of the inducer. So this is where pi d1 n by 60, and then this is one pi d2 n by 60 will give us the u1 and u2. Then CW2 is the whirling velocity at the outlet, and CW1 is the whirling velocity at the inlet. Now knowing these things, we can find out the compressor work input in this case. So here we can see that if we are having higher radius component, higher radius at the outlet, then we can get more and more compressor work in a stage. So that increases the frontal area of the compressor, and due to which this compressor is not preferred, since it would lead to more drag for the aircraft engine. So this is one of the major reasons why centrifugal compressors are not opted for aircraft engines, since they lead to more drag, since for higher pressure requirement their surface area increases, frontal area increases. Now we can find out the CW2 and CW1 using the velocity triangles, and then we can find out the pressure rise or temperature rise in case of the centrifugal compressor. Okay, so this pressure rise, temperature rise, or what is the thermodynamic process in the flow for the compressor, which is centrifugal compressor, that thing we will see in the next class. Thank you.